Bruce, Tekken's Muay Thai mercenary that I guess is also labeled as a kickboxer, Kazuya's right-hand man and known as the Nightmare of Tekken. Today I'm going to be giving Bruce a redesign for Tekken 8, a game that I seriously doubt he's going to make another appearance in, but nevertheless, here we go. Alright, so I got requested a while back to do a redesign for Bruce. Honestly, I wasn't that big of a Bruce fan in the first iterations of Tekken, particularly like Tekken 2 and Tekken Tag Tournament. I wasn't the biggest Bruce fan, but once they reintroduced him in Tekken 5, he was way cooler. Just how menacing Bruce carried himself and how he looked in those games, I thought he was awesome. And the story of Bruce always being Kazuya's right-hand man and his bodyguard to me is always interesting, especially considering that Kazuya has like superhuman abilities and powers. Why does he even need a bodyguard? So Bruce has to be crazy. But in doing a lot of these redesigns, unless requested, I always think about them in like a modern fighting game, and it's weird for Bruce in Tekken 8 for a couple reasons. The main one being, I don't think that Bruce is gonna come back. Not gonna lie, I think there's a more likely chance that we see Fahkumram come back than Bruce. I'm not sure heads or tails how people feel about that, but it just is what it is. The other issue is, I've done quite a few, just me personally, Muay Thai-like redesigns on this channel. I've done redesigns for Sagat, Fahkumram, and even Adon from Street Fighter. So in doing one for Bruce, it was really me trying to rack my head to do another Muay Thai design, and I didn't want him to look like a Muay Thai fighter. I want him to look somewhat different. So my focus for this design was more on bodyguard Bruce and less on kickboxing Muay Thai Bruce. So without further ado, let's see what I got.
Unlike 20 years ago, there's no difference between us now.
Okay, so before I even started doing the real actual design part of this, when I was blocking out his pose, I wanted to give him a Muay Thai pose just to keep that aspect of Bruce in my mind when I was doing the design, because I knew he was going to be looking like in civilian clothes. He was going to be in bodyguard mode, so I didn't want him necessarily dressed like a Muay Thai fighter, but I still wanted him to have the Muay Thai pose to just sort of, I don't know, keep who he is as a character visible while making him look the way I needed him to, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So I used an old school sort of kickboxer Bruce pose, if that makes any sense, to try to start this off and then go from there. I knew I wanted to play with his hairstyle a bit. I ended up just settling on a mohawk. I just wanted to make the sort of braids in the back of his mohawk longer and stuck with that after a while. I think I changed the mohawk like 2 or 3 times in doing this design because I didn't like necessarily the way it looked. And I didn't want to get too outrageous with it just because the change in Eddie's hairstyle has really messed me up as far as a lot of different looks that I wanted to do in Tekken. And there was almost an idea to make him bald, but I felt like if I made him bald, he would start to look more like Craig and not necessarily like Bruce. And I made the conscious effort to give him like a longer beard as well. Once again, just one of those things to change up Bruce's look. A lot of these characters in these fighting games go long periods of time without ever evolving their look or changing, but so much. I figured just like little small touches, just like the length of his hair, would help somewhat in upgrading their design some, even without giving him a full-blown new hairstyle. But from there, I wanted to give him a lot of gold accessories. I wanted to give him like gold bracelets and watches, but at the same time, I don't know why the idea jumped into my head to give him like brass knuckles, so I did that as well. I also, looking at a lot of old Tekken 6 imagery, I liked the sort of suit or the dress clothes that he wore in that outfit, and the fact that he wore like gloves, like fingerless gloves along with him, just made him look, I don't know, it was kind of just cool and intimidating how this dude in the suit is just walking around ready for a fight all the time, so I kept that gloves look as well. But most of this design, you really weren't going to notice just how much or how unique it was going to be until I started coloring, because his base design was really somewhat simple in terms of the dress outfit with the chains and whatnot. A lot of the detail came in once I did the coloring. So after I had his base, I went back over that with the line art and then started coloring from there. Before I continue, just want to let everybody know to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. It would be greatly appreciated, especially if you wanted to see any more fighting game or art related content that I have on my channel. But getting back to Bruce's actual look, so once I got his line art finished, I went ahead and started coloring him in. I also realized at a certain point that I did this in a Photoshop document and not in an actual like vector layer. That was its own problem, but I didn't feel like going all the way back and doing the line art and stuff over again. Laziness on my part, I know. But in continuing to color him, I knew I wanted to give him sort of a darker suit, just something to match Kazuya's look a little bit. Sounds crazy, but a lot of his design was me thinking how well it would sort of balance with him standing next to Kazuya. If he's going to be serving as his bodyguard, Lord knows Kazuya needs one. And then in doing all the coloring for the design, I had to make sure I went back and did the tattoos on the chest. Couldn't forget that. And then I added like an interesting little design to his clothes, specifically the jacket and the size of his pants. Didn't want to go with anything too extravagant, but I still wanted something a little darker, almost like a burgundy or a red. Again, trying to match with Kazuya a little bit. Like I said, I didn't think too much in terms of like a traditional Bruce design, simply because I didn't give him a Muay Thai look. So it's like, okay, how would he look as like the top bodyguard at like G Corporation or something along those lines? And inadvertently, the pattern on his clothes almost fit Kazuya's sort of martial arts outfit, or at least his karate outfit. I didn't intend to do it that way, it just kind of matched as I continued. And it was just the weird gold trim that I added to the jacket and the pants in the design as I kept moving forward. But after that, I had the base of his design down, and I really loved the addition of the brass knuckles along with the design too. I don't know why, but I really like that. It's just small details that make this from just being a dude in dress clothes doing Muay Thai to like something interesting specifically about Bruce's look to me. But from there started shading. Shading wasn't difficult, especially just considering the pose that he's in. There's going to be quite a few shadows, and it's sort of obvious where I needed to put them anyways. Just picking out that light source and going from there. As is the case most of the time when I do these designs, the shading and lighting is where most of the money is made from these designs. It's where it starts like piecing itself together. And that's when it really starts getting fun for me. In this Bruce's case, once I started doing the shading on his face, he really started to look a lot more menacing to me. This just looks like a sort of meaner Bruce. He also looks somewhat older, and I don't know why. It probably is the fact that I gave him a beard in the first place. But whatever, it still looked pretty cool to me. And the more mature Tekken 8-like designs that they have for the new game, this seems like it fits in my mind. But in any event, going from there, after getting the shadows done on Bruce, it was on to doing the highlights, adding the little details in like the gold chains and whatnot that I had on Bruce, and then doing like skin detail and small highlights on like the jacket and the pants. I didn't want them overly shiny. And getting the sides of his head, at least the bald aspects on the sides of his head and whatnot from the mohawk. And after getting all those details in, he was pretty much finished. And after doing the specular highlights, I had a brand new Tekken 8 Bruce Irvin. Not gonna lie, I didn't know how I would feel about designing Bruce when I first started doing this, but I'm alright with the finished product. Especially considering like I said, I didn't know what I was gonna do in the outset. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you feel in the comments below about this design. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments below about this Bruce design, and whether or not you think he'll actually make a return in Tekken 8. Not gonna lie, I have my doubts. But in any event, once again, like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And you all have a good one. And I'm out.